What is going on, everybody? Devin Kramer here with J Park, Houston County. Thanks so much for coming back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be making a video about some of the top things that are in buyers' minds when they are considering purchasing a home. So what I did was I went to Google, where I'm sure a ton of prospective home buyers are going right before they start their search, and I typed in, "Can I buy a house?" And what came up were these top 3 results. First, can I buy a house with no money down? Second, can I buy a house with bad credit? And third, can I buy a house without a realtor? Now, I'll be going into all these 3 reasons that are in buyers' minds when they look to go purchase a house. Now, the first reason, can I buy a house with no money down, is probably one of the biggest ones. It's up there with can I buy a house with bad credit. So a lot of folks are under the impression that you need $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, tons of money down in order to purchase a house. And this is completely false. There are even still rumors going around out there, and one of the biggest myths is that you need 20% down on any purchase in order to get into a home. And it's discouraging for a lot of first-time homeowners or prospective first-time homeowners who just don't have that kind of cash, and frankly, not many of us do these days. So let's break it down. Do you need money to buy a house? In short, yes, you need a little bit. You should have some. There are some different expenses that are going to come along, such as inspection costs, appraisal costs, and things like that. However, do you need tens of thousands of dollars? No, absolutely not. Reason being, federal guidelines, depending on whichever loan you might go with, could require as low as 3.5% down for a Federal Housing Administration-backed 30-year mortgage. Now, some options even allow you to put less money down. Those are also going to be government options, and those 2 options are going to be, 1, the VA loan, offered to, obviously, veterans. Anyone who served in any branch of the military can take advantage of the veterans loan. Second would be the USDA loan. Now, USDA loans are designed to help bring more population to some more rural areas. So if an area qualifies for USDA lending, that would mean no money down as a down payment and no money toward closing costs. Now, each of these loans are going to vary greatly based on the applicant. Everyone's, individual credit profile, their finances, how good their credit score is, their payment history, their income, as well as their debt. All these things are going to be taken into account. So one loan will not necessarily always fit one person more than another. They're not all cookie cutter, and what fits for Joe does not fit for Bob, basically. So to finish off that first question, yes, you can buy a house with no money down. Second, the minimum needed to buy a house, according to the FHA, is going to be 3.5% of the purchase price. And then finally, you could even get into a house with no money down using either the VA loan or the USDA loan. Now let's take a look at the next major Googled question is, can I buy a house with bad credit? And again, the answer is yes and no. So credit score measures a lot of different things. It's going to measure how much money you owe. It's going to measure, of the accounts that you do have, how much credit have you utilized out of those accounts. That's something called your credit utilization. And it's also going to measure things like your payment history, whether or not you've ever missed a payment. It's going to measure things like how many accounts you have open. And it's also going to measure things that determine the diversity of your accounts. Meaning, do you only have 1 credit card, or do you have 5 credit cards? Do you only have 1 car loan, or have you paid off a car loan and several credit cards in the past 10 years? So your credit score is a very complicated measurement tool that lenders will use to see if you are a worthy borrower of funds in order to purchase a home. And again, this is also a myth. Now, you can buy a house with bad credit, depending. The FHA requires that you have a minimum credit score of 580. Now, 580 might still even be too high for some folks. What if you have a 500? So the lower your score gets, it is true, the more difficult it becomes to be able to loan you money. And a lot of banks and mortgage brokers will see you as a high risk borrower because you have a poor credit score. Once you start getting into the lower credit brackets, you're going to see things that might scare you a little bit as a first-time home buyer. So if you have a very low credit score, a lot of places will require more money down. Generally between 500 and 580 is a credit score. They could require at least 10% of the purchase price as a down payment. Also, one of the big things that might hurt you moving forward is the lower your credit score, the higher your interest rate could be for your loan. And this will drastically affect your monthly payment amount as well. Now, as you get lower than 500, you're going to run into some issues. Most banks probably will not lend to you. Most mortgage brokers probably won't lend to you if you're going to be lower than 500. So what you would face then would be private investors and or private underwriters who would be willing to write the loan for you in exchange for a much higher down payment, a much higher interest rate. And at that point, it's probably advisable that you just wait. Wait to build up your credit, work on increasing your score so that you can be in that more favorable credit range bracket that's more appealing to most lenders. So in summation, yes, you can buy a house with bad credit. However, it does get harder the lower your credit score goes, and there's more that you have to pay, almost as in proving your worth, the lower your score gets. It could be anywhere from a higher down payment to higher interest rates. And now, finally, the top reason that probably I'm the most passionate about because I am a realtor. Do you need a realtor to buy a house? Or, as the Google search said, can I buy a house without a realtor? So obviously, I'm biased. Whenever I hear somebody ask me this, I'm definitely going to say you absolutely need to work with a realtor, especially if you're buying. Now, one of the biggest things that I will say that people don't realize is when you are working with a buyer's agent, it is generally free. Anytime a realtor is working on your behalf to help you purchase a home, it is almost always free. No cost to you because the agent is paid out of the seller profits. So let me just dispel that myth right there. That being said, it would kind of seem like a no-brainer, right? Should you use a realtor? Well, if it's free, why not? Why not have a professional help me with it? However, the question was, can I buy a house without a realtor? The answer to that is yes. So we're going to take a look at some of the things that you might want to be on the lookout for if you are purchasing a house without a realtor and you don't have a licensed professional working on your behalf. So if you're a private buyer and you find a for sale by owner house and you contact the owner and you want to move forward and you want to make a purchase. Now, the biggest thing that I can say that will be working against you is you don't have a professional negotiating on your behalf. There are a lot of options that maybe the everyday consumer doesn't realize that they might have in their back pocket that, one, can make the deal more beneficial to them, and two, make their contract much more appealing to the seller. So a few things that you might want to be on the lookout for if you decide to purchase a house without a realtor could be things like inspection issues. Realtors also are great at handling all of the legal paperwork and documentation to make sure that the contracts are filled out correctly. They're also helpful in determining whether or not major problems or major issues have been disclosed. Now, I'm not saying that this is a norm or that it could happen or will happen, but it has happened. Sellers can sometimes be dishonest. If they are trying to show their property in the best light possible, they may be tempted to not disclose certain major defects that could come back and bite you in the future. Another major issue that I have seen down here on the beach, because I sell a lot of beach condos and vacation rentals, is zoning. Now, we have a lot of short-term rentals down here on the beach. We have a lot of folks that will Airbnb or do Verbo, the vacation rental by owner. And one of the biggest problems that you might come into is if you want to buy a house or you want to buy a condo and you want to short-term rent it out, like on Airbnb, and it's not zoned for that. Unless a county or a city has specifically zoned that area, that house, that neighborhood, that subdivision, whatever it is, unless it's been specifically zoned for short-term rental, you could be facing major fines, hefty penalties, and probably eventually jail time if you keep it up. I don't know about jail time. We'll see. Who knows? But I wouldn't want to get caught paying tons of fines to the city because I was trying to make money on my investment condo. Another issue that a buyer might face, or something to really be mindful of, is of course purchase price. Now that would probably be the most obvious, is making sure that you don't overpay for something. Realtors have a lot of access to historical data. They have a lot of access to neighborhood data. And while you could absolutely purchase a house without a realtor, there are a lot of things that the consumer may not have access to that would help them make a more informed decision. So, if you decide to buy a house without a realtor, make sure that you do your due diligence, that you get your inspections, that you look at the neighborhood history, the tax history, you look at the homes that have sold in that area to make sure that you're paying a fair price for the house. Make sure that you ask the owner very specific questions to find out if there's been any damage. Here specifically on the beach, we have a lot of hurricane damage in the past. So, if you're going into a house and something doesn't look right, it's probably not right. So, to make a long answer just a little bit longer, yes, you can buy a house without a realtor. Is it recommended? Unless you really know what you're doing, it's probably not recommended. And the way I see it, like I said earlier, was if you're purchasing a home, it's free. Okay, the buyer's agent is paid out of the commission that is agreed on with the seller and the selling agent or the listing agent. So if someone can get free professional help, and someone in their corner to help them buy a home, why wouldn't you do it? So let's recap really quick. We have 1, can I buy a house with no money down? Yes, you can. 2, can I buy a house with bad credit? Yes, you can, but the worse credit you get, the harder it gets to buy a house. And finally, 3, can I buy a house without a realtor? Yes, you can, as long as you make sure that you do your research, you do your due diligence, and if you have an option to use a realtor as a buyer's agent, I do recommend that you have a professional working in your corner and on your side. And that sums up the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming to my channel. Hit that subscribe button. Give me a call. Shoot me a text. My number and link to my website are going to be down below in the comments, and I will see y'all later.